Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here coming at you from the Knife Center, and it is our favorite time of the week. We're taking a look at the coolest new knives that have just hit our shelves. Let's check them out. All right, we're starting off with exclusive time with a Boker Urban Trapper. One of my favorite patterns from their Boker Plus lineup. I have an old Cocobolo handled version, one of these in my collection still. This version right here kicks things up a few notches. First of all, an S35 VN blade, almost 3.5 inches worth, with that signature Zinker long tapering clip point style, kind of that California clip point, but modernized. And the black coating on that provides a really cool contrast to the handle materials here, which we've got blue titanium liners, blue pocket clip, and a white ivory-like resin material for the scales that has a really cool look to it. And just like something like actual ivory, which this is not, each little piece is going to be a little bit different, the little striations and patterns you see in there. Very distinctive look, quite unlike any other Urban Trapper that we've ever seen, and honestly a bit distinct from pretty much every other knife out there these days. This combination of colors actually works really well together, and it's quite a bit different at the same time, which is very hard to pull off. Very nice. About $99 for this. Fantastic gentleman's piece. The black blade kind of takes it in a slightly different direction than your standard satin blade. Folds up quite nicely, flips quite nicely as well. You've got that bit of crowned spine here at the back. That deep carry pocket clip works well for keeping things out of the way. And whether you were carrying this in a slightly fancier setting or just in a pair of blue jeans, the blue of that clip is going to mesh very nicely and blend in very nicely to a nice pair of denim pants right there, AKA blue jeans, right? Really nicely done and available only from us right now. This is a KnifeCenter exclusive. All right, next up we've got a restock of another KnifeCenter exclusive. This is the Shirogorov Neon NL. Comes in about $550 right now. And I always say, like, if you wanted, let's say you're into something like a Chris Reeve Sebenza, but you want a flipper. These guys right here kind of put together, in my mind, what is the equivalent of a Chris Reeve level quality in a flipper type of knife. Very nicely done. Titanium handles, orange and black kind of coral style G10 inlays, which is KnifeCenter exclusive. L-Max blade, 3.25 inch long, full flat grind with pretty much the thinnest edge you're ever gonna see on any production knife. Consistent and razor thin, razor sharp as well, all along the entire edge. Really nicely done. And that speaks to the precision of this knife overall, which is what leads me to kind of give it that comparison to something like the Chris Reeve. You've got like the same just astronomically good build quality on a knife like this. This knife uses their multi-row bearing system. I don't quite know what that means, other than that there's probably multiple rings in there, but in terms of the action, just oh so good. You do have to be a little careful not to put some finger pressure on the lock bar on this knife. This is one of those knives where you got to keep that in mind, but once you get used to that, so nice. Excellent, elegant shape, fits in the hand quite nicely. Great type of sweeping profile for slicing, and a nice acute tip for excellent piercing as well. Next, the first of the aluminum handled SIG K320s by Hogue are starting to show up, which is really exciting. I've long been a fan of this knife in general, and the upgrade to aluminum here just kicks things up another notch. About $187 for this variant, which comes with an S30V blade in the drop point or Tonto profiles, 3.5 inches long, black aluminum with black checkered G10 inlays on both sides. This will be a little bit of a pocket shredder, so you got that extra retention from this checkered material, but you know, as knife nuts out there will know, your pants make the ultimate sacrifice to carry something like this in that kind of scenario. Really dig the pocket clips on these knives, deep carry, and in order to kind of counteract one of the disadvantages of a deep carry clip, which can be that it's a little harder to get to in a hurry. They gave it these little louvers or little punched up, bent up sections that give you some grip for pulling that knife out. You can also carry this tip down as well, which is something you don't often see with a crossbar style lock. And Hogue's version, which they call their Able lock, still is the one to beat, I think, in terms of the industry at large. It is so smooth, so tight, so little blade play when open, which most of these lock types tend to have just a little bit. This knife is absolutely spot on, or this lock is absolutely spot on in that regard. And I know these have been hotly anticipated, so glad to see they are finally showing up. Next up, we have got a new Microtech Godson coming in at about $290, and the thing that sets this particular version apart is the inlays. A blue, dark matter fat carbon, and you get it on the front and the back. It's essentially a marbled carbon fiber with some blue resin kind of peppered throughout, so to speak, so you get some like flashes of blue showing through, which is pretty cool. The rest of that marbled carbon fiber-ness kind of blends in very nicely with the integrated aluminum bolsters, front and back. Black coated 154 cm blade with the DLC coating. Just under 3¼ inches long, that nice needle-like profile. And of course, this is the smaller version of the Godfather, which is of course, especially with a name like that, would suggest kind of a Italian stiletto inspired design, except modernized, a little bit sleeker than some of the more ornate things out there. But if you squint, you can kind of see that heritage, which is pretty cool indeed as far as I'm concerned. And being a Microtech, as I always say when I show a Microtech, that action speaks for itself. All right, next we have a couple of Microtechs, but not a couple of knives in this case. The new Kyroh and Kyroh Mini pens are in stock. $165 for the Mini, $175 for the full-sized version. Each of these come in 2 different finishes. On the Mini here, I've got the bead blasted finish, and that comes with a blue internal barrel that you can see right there. And the full-sized version, let's see what they call it, is the shot peened finish. And it is kind of blacker, and you've got kind of a brass accenting barrel and attachment hardware for the pocket clip too. Interestingly, despite these knives, or I keep saying knives, despite these pens being 2 completely different sizes, they both use a standard Fisher Space Pen cartridge. So you've got the advantages of that pressurized cartridge, meaning you can write upside down with it. It's not gonna like stop writing when you do that sort of thing. You can write underwater, on a lot of different surfaces, all of that kind of fun stuff, and including outer space, of course, if you ever find yourself out that way, or should I say up that way. No matter.
Getting kind of out there, aren't you?
Haha, good one, Thomas. Some other cool stuff. You've got some, some nods to the Microtech knife heritage. The attachment hardware there on the pocket clip, same thing you see on the knives. You've got the glass ball breaker there, glass breaker there on the end. Another cool thing you see here is tritium inserts on the front of this. It's not going to show up here with the lights on, but we did confirm we had the lights off checking it out, and it does give off that glow. As you screw the knife apart, you can see the grip section here is actually a separate piece. So I find myself wondering if they're going to do some different stuff with that over the years. You might be able to, at some point, purchase some different grip sections if you want to customize things. And the bolt action on this blade, did it again. The bolt action on this pen is integrated with the pocket clip itself. So that serves dual purposes right there. Kind of cleans the outside of the pen up a little bit. You don't have an extra kind of nubbin sticking out for that bolt action, but you still get the fun fidgetiness of that bolt. And of course, you get the advantage of, if you're carrying this in a pocket, as opposed to a click pen, which the tip can be extended. If you accidentally hit that, you run much less of a risk with this style of pen. All right, next we have some cold steel knives. The first is the Razortech. This is the 6.5-inch bladed version, which comes in about $143. There's also a 5-inch version, which comes in about $93. In addition to those two sizes, there's also a 4-inch, but that one's actually significantly different. So I'll talk about that one separately. But what you get with this knife is a 6.5-inch blade, 41/16 stainless steel. Technically a straight clip point with a bit of recurve going on and a high flat grind. Kind of a decent many-purpose blade shape. It might not be the first thing you reach for an outdoors knife, but it could be pressed into that kind of service. But moreover, definitely a bit more of a tactical or offensive knife overall. Fairly thick on the blade stock, something like 3/16 of an inch. So you're gonna have a decent amount of strength in this blade and a pretty good amount of reach with it as well. That recurve will give you a little extra cutting power in that given length. Overall, just feels pretty solid in the hand, quite honestly. Injection molded handles, you've got kind of an aggressive mountainous texture going on right here. Trying to feel for hot spots right here. It's not too bad, really. If you're wearing gloves, you're not gonna feel it at all, but even if not, it's not gonna be too bad, I don't think. You got a nice broad section of jimping here for some thumb pressure if you go that way. Yeah, man, the handle just works. You've got an aggressive or an extra scooped out index finger portion for a little more protection behind that finger guard right there. And a pretty decent size for folks with slightly larger than average hands like myself. If you have really big paws though, I'm kind of maxed out on this handle, so keep that in mind. Obviously, it's not a perfect description, but if you know you've got big hands, this might not be the knife for you. Sheath is classic cold steel at this point. Securex clicks into place quite nicely. You've got an extra retention strap that's hooked up to a Velcro and snap setup here at the back for standard belt carry. And the hole and slot pattern on the sheath here is going to work with pretty much any kind of aftermarket sheath attachment accessory that is out there. Now with the 4-inch Razortech, you can definitely see the family resemblance in the handle design, but the blade itself is very, very different from either of the larger knives. $72 for this one, and honestly, I really like this one even more. It strikes me less as a tactical thing. It could certainly do those tactical things, don't get me wrong, but I'm really enjoying the thought of this as an everyday carry or a smaller companion fixed blade if I were to go out camping with a bigger knife. It's big enough, you could use it for the around the camp stuff, the whittling, the food prep even, smaller paring knife stuff with this 4-inch blade. And the handle is technically a little smaller. If I grip it kind of where it wants me to, I'm kind of a little bit on the beak right there, but I'm able to grip it in such a way that I'm not really using that index finger guard a little bit. So yeah, probably slightly smaller handed individuals would be even more well served with this, but it still works for me. I'm just really digging that. 4 inches here, 41/16 again, about, let's call that, it's more like 3/16 of an inch thick, or sorry, 3/32 of an inch thick, or is it closer to an eighth? It's about an eighth of an inch thick. Decent enough, full flat grind, gonna slice well enough and be tough enough still for those outdoor uses. Nimble too. Holds in a lot of different grips quite nicely. Same style of sheath as we just looked at. Securex, extra retention strap, extra options for aftermarket stuff if you want it. Yeah, I'm really liking that a lot actually. All right, next we have a new version of the Click and Cut. This is the Tim Wells Slockmaster version. His kind of signature version comes in about $24. And this is a triad lock knife, but it is not a folding knife. You can see there's no place for that blade to fold in. This is fixed in place by that lock, and it can be removed. And when you're ready to do that, the sheath comes with a couple extra insertable blades. We have a utility style blade with full serrations, except for that nice little 1/2 inch out there near the tip. And since this is kind of their hunting version, there's also a more precise kind of hunting scalpel-like blade. Might be a good little caper, and certainly good for some of the smaller, more delicate areas you might need to get in and around in that sort of scenario. I've always liked the concept of the Click and Cut because you get the advantage of kind of a replaceable blade system without it being like disposable. And you can buy certain packs of extra blades in your preferred blade shapes for these. They're all going to work with each other. There's also a new folding version of the click and cut. So it has the same interchangeability. The same blades aren't going to work between the fixed and the folding versions, but you get the same modularity with also the convenience of a folding version. But I really honestly like the fixed version because the handle is going to be a little bit more comfortable because you don't have a gap there right on the front of the handle. And speaking of comfort, plenty of grip here for especially those hunting scenarios, given this piece's intended mission. The kind of orange peel, aggressive orange peel texture on that is going to come in very handy. Next up, we have the Fox Baby Core, Jesper Vakne's design. Several different versions. I happen to really like this burlap micarta version. It's contoured. Some of the titanium versions of this are just flat slabs. I always go for a little bit of extra contouring when I can get it. Can't you tell? $166 for this particular version. For that, it's kind of a 3-finger grip, but quite comfortable. You've got a deep carry wire pocket clip and a brass backspacer. Is this actual brass or is it anodized? It may smell like actual brass, but it's cool looking nonetheless. Looks really great against that burlap, and the blade steel here is M390, 2.36 inches. It's got kind of a gray stone washed finish. Blade shape. Let's talk about what we want to call this particular one.
I know what I'm going to call it.
And you'd be wrong this time, Thomas. Shut your reverse Tonto-shaped face. I'd probably say this is a modified sheep's foot, a heavily modified sheep's foot. Because, you know, accepting all of this belly, which there is a ton of belly going on here, if we look at just the tip of that knife, it definitely has kind of a sheep's footy personality, a sheep's footy vibe going on. So maybe we'll go with that, while also acknowledging that it's not it is far from a perfect definition, in fact. One of the cool things I like about this knife versus some of the similar Vox designs in this kind of same size range, something about this, the way this knife closes, has a nice tidy feel to it to me. I really like it. We've got ball bearings in the pivot. We also have the 2 opening methods. You've got the flipper and the little thumb cutout, which will also work for that finger flick opening action. A lot of fun. Nice, attractive little blade. I like it a little better. It reminds me a little bit of like the Fox Suru, but I like it a little bit better. The blade has a little less of an aggressive belly as the Suru and might be a bit more useful day to day for most folks. Dig that. All right, next up from Fox's BlackFox subsidiary. If you've ever been wondering what a true sheep's foot blade looks like, because we're always talking about modified this, modified that, this is the OD Green B.Key flipper. And it has a very unequivocal sheep's foot shape going on. Parallel edge and spine, completely straight, sharpened edge, and that blunted, humped tip there. $35 for these. You've got aluminum handles and 440A stainless steel. Fairly on the thick side. This is definitely just kind of an aggressive, indiscriminate little cutter, especially with the thickness right here. You might be able to push this knife a little hard. The liner lock is inset and it locks it up effectively enough that I feel like it could take some of that. Might work also as a money clip. You don't have a big, broad clip itself, but the body of the knife is nice and wide. Several different colors. This is just one of them, the green. There's blue, black, orange. That might be all. There's a few other colors anyway. Really nice little thing. Good gift also for folks out there that may or may not be knife people yet. Definitely something that folks will be able to see the utility of for sure. Speaking of utility, you can also get this as a tool. We have the same body, but we have a contactless tool right here, which nowadays and in any days, there's dirty stuff everywhere that if you don't want to touch it, this might come in handy. A little bit more expensive here, and that's due to some of the extra parts involved. About $40 for these, and this one shows the orange aluminum version. You've got your hook there. You can use it to pick up things. You've got the rubberized tip here at the end that you can use to push touch capacitive buttons, touch screens.
Those
things. If you wish, it's a nice little thing. And the other thing that's kind of cool about a folding version here is when you're done, you just fold it away and all the dirty bits are kept on the inside. So you don't have to worry about them kind of jangling around and getting on other stuff. It's kind of cool. And then you've also, of course, got the fidget-friendly nature of a flipper. You can even take this places that a normal knife might not make it. You can still have your adult fidget toy with you while you're at it. Next up, how about something that combines the green and the orange? This is the Kansept Pretatout flipper. Let's look that word up because I didn't beforehand, but it sounds vaguely French. So it's 3 words in French, Pretatout, which means ready for anything. Good name for a knife, if I do say so myself. And this knife here comes in about $76. You got a blade just over 3.5 inches in 154 cm steel with this cool black stone-washed finish. Tanto profile, compound grinds, both of them flat. Significant amount of belly on the leading edge of the Tanto. So it's less Western Tanto-ish, and it's kind of a hybrid actually between a Western Tanto and a traditional Tanto when you get right down to it. G10 handles here, orange and green. Milled pocket clip, I believe that is titanium, single position only in this case. Liner lock and ball bearings. Cool profile when closed, and I think you've got 3 opening methods here. We do have the flipper, works great. You do have the thumb studs, which also work great. And you've got those dual fullers on each side too, which you could probably use to do that thing. It's not working for me. But you could thumb open it that way. Do the thumb fuller. Let's try one more time. If I don't get it here, we'll move on. Just takes a little practice, ladies and gentlemen.
It's a Christmas miracle.
It's Christmas in May? What's happening here?
Time is relative.
Lunchtime doubly so. But anyway, cool blade profile. It's going to be good for a lot of general purpose stuff while not looking just like a quote unquote boring drop point. Not that there's anything wrong with a boring drop point. I tend to be a fan. Yeah, just going to get you through your day, I think, quite nicely and be ready for anything. You be the judge. Let us know. All right, a couple more Kansepts to show you. We have got the Bulldozer next. Several different versions and price points for this knife. This one comes in at $75 and you've got a D2 blade. And you've got a step-up version with brass or copper handles and S35 VN steel. $137 for those. And starting at $245, there is a titanium version with a 20 CV blade. And at $300, there's another 20 CV version with a pretty much a full Timascus front scale and Timascus clip. Really, really impressive, especially considering the price. $300 for this size knife with that much Timascus is, believe it or not, actually a bit of a bargain. But let's get back to this particular one right here. D2 blade steel, black stone-washed finish, jade G10 handles over black liners, black pocket clip, deep carry on the right side, and your liner lock, ball bearings in yield pivot here, and a front flipper that I can actually get to work. So I'm always very pleased by that. I like the blade very much, actually. 3.5 or just over 3.5 inches. Nice broad shape, decently thin with a full flat grind. Great slicer, but still a great shape for heavy, aggressive cuts. That tip is going to work quite well. And let's talk about the shape.
Modified clip point.
No, it's not even a straight line. There's even a little bit of drop right there.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Be better, Thomas. Try harder. We call this a reverse Tanto on the website. Yes, we do. And this is one where, this is this thing that sort of frustrates me with the classification of reverse Tanto a little bit. This isn't that far off from a reverse or a modified sheep's foot as well. Who knows, ladies and gentlemen. What can I say, though? It is a nice looking blade. Bit of almost cleaverish in some ways. A lot of the things a folding pocket cleaver are going to be good at, this is also going to be good at, is what I mean by that. Yeah, nice, broad, efficient blade shape that is going to tuck into your pocket very easily. All right, next up we have a new mini version of the Hellx flipper. which, if you're familiar with Mikkel Williamson's work, you're going to immediately see his handiwork here. So this is a smaller version. I hesitate to say mini because it doesn't feel mini, but smaller version than the original, which had a 3.6-inch blade. Here we're dealing with a 3.25-inch blade, and I almost didn't believe that. I actually had to check to be sure, and it did. It came in just a hair under 3.25 inches from the tip to the front of that handle right there. Because it's so broad, it feels bigger. Doesn't feel like a mini knife whatsoever. 3.25 inches of D2 steel. Plenty to hold on to here, or plenty of length to hold on to on the back. I can get my fourth finger on the back end there. It does taper a bit, but you can choke up if you want a fuller feeling grip or more control over that blade. D2 blade steel, $50 exactly for this knife right now. Feels great, really good deal. Liner lock, we've got stainless steel liners with G10 overlays, blue in this case, but bunch of different colors can be had. Nice clean kind of termination to the tang of the blade here at the back. Lines up perfectly with the handle. You got your flipper tab. Works great. Ball bearings in the pivot as you probably expected for this style of knife. You can do a pinch open and roll it open with the pad of your thumb if you prefer it that way. Love the stone washed finish. It's going to work great and look great for a long time after working hard. There you go. Technically, this is a little hybrid between a drop point and a tanto in a way. You have a subtle but definite point there where the angle changes. So it's definitely more drop pointy because you've just got a standard single flat grind, and a few sharpenings are going to take out that point there pretty quickly. Still, pretty neat knife. All right. Last but not least, we have the tale of two kitchen knives. We have the Swiss Modern from Victorinox, and we have the Cottage Craft series from Boker. Both wood-handled knives, as you can see, but both very different. We'll start with the Victorinox. This is part of their Swiss Modern line, which comes in a wood handle or a few different synthetic color options instead, but those are the same shape. The walnut wood version here, which is the more premium part of the lineup, comes in about $103, but the synthetic version, if you like this shape, it's just $58, which is pretty nice. Got your 8-inch chef knife blade, simple stainless steel right here, and the handle feels great. You've got tapers in just the right places. From the side, it looks a little blocky, but it's when you turn it around in your hand that you see the different angles going on, and you really see that it is a knife that is made to be used. Feels great in that standard chef's knife pinch grip. Got a great blade profile here. Does just about all you need in the kitchen. And the nice thing, see I put a fingerprint on it here, the grain pattern goes tip to back. So when you're wiping a blade off, it's going to be going in the same direction as the scratches on the blade, which is pretty cool. Just a little kind of nice touch is going to help you appreciate these sorts of things a little bit longer. Really cool. The Boker, on the other hand, while similar a little bit on the face of it, is completely the opposite direction. Whereas the Swiss version, the Swiss Modern here, is looking to the future. This knife is looking to the past. The Cottage Craft is kind of looking to the German-made knives. This is a German-made knife in Solingen, Germany, that were made years and years ago, before the modern plastic black handles with the triple rivets became like the de facto standard look. This knife is $89.56 right now exactly. You've got a carbon steel blade rather than stainless, and you've got a plum wood handle. That's pretty cool right there, which is local to Solingen, in fact. Nice taper here at the front of the handle, lets you do that pinch grip quite well. The handle kind of gets out of its own way for that sort of thing. This knife especially has a good rock chop going on, which you don't always find on some of the German style knives out there. So I'm always appreciative of seeing that. Really cool. I should say that both of these lineups as well, I'm showing you just the chef knife here, but broad selection of different blade patterns, everything you need to outfit your kitchen in either case. I don't know. Which one do you like better? Do you like the Swiss Modern, or do you go for the Cottage Craft, or you go for the old school? Tell me what you prefer, because I like them both. It's hard to decide which I like better. I'm leaning to the carbon steel right now, but that's just because I'm weird, and I don't mind having carbon steel in the kitchen, so. But what about you? Let me know, and if you want to get your hands on any of these knives, links are in the description that will take you over to KnifeCenter.com. While you're there, don't forget about our Knife Rewards program, because when you buy one of these knives, you're at least going to earn some free money to spend on your next ones. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center. That's Thomas behind the camera. We're signing off. See you next time.